I'm Wayne Kokinda with William Ravis Real Estate. It is April 11th, 2022 here, and I'm here with the numbers for the week. I'm going to talk about the trends since the beginning of the pandemic. It's interesting to see what's happened in the marketplace, where we are and why we are where we are. But let's get going here. We're going to look at Westchester and Putnam Counties. You can see what's happened with the inventory active listings. 2020 was the blue line on top, then it dropped down the following year in 2021, significant decline, close to 1,500 on average, but the end of the year dropped way off below 1,000. And you can see here in 2022, the first 3 months so far, we're well under 1,000 units on average for Westchester County, number of active single family homes on the market. The month supply, 5 month to 6 month range of supply is considered a balanced market between buyers and sellers. You can see right there in 2021, way below 3 months. And this year we've been running below 2 months worth of supply. So an extremely strong seller's market continues. Number of new listings. You take a peek at the blue line, that was the pandemic where the spring started off with inventory coming up, but then in March it died because the pandemic came into play and nothing happened for a few months. But then as we got to the middle of the summer back in 2020, the inventory started to come on and follow the kind of normal trend, a decline during the fall and during the winter months. Picked up the same kind of trend there in 2021, the orange line. You can see where it gets up in the spring, goes down towards the fall and falls off in December. So far this year, it looks like a very similar trend with new listings. So we'll see what comes into play. Number of sales, you can see where they have fallen off. The lack of inventory is going to cause a decrease in sales. 2020 is the blue line. The pandemic was certainly in play for the first 6 months of that year. 2021 increased in sales a bit last year. This year, we're kind of holding our own, but the lack of inventory is slowing down the number of units being sold. It hasn't impacted at all how quick the market is. You can see how fast the market's moving. It's dropped from that 100-day mark in 2020 down to around 60 days in 2021, and this year so far we're started well below 60 days on average for the first 3 months of the year. The average sale price, again, you can see the impact that the lack of inventory has had. Supply and demand is what it's all about. On average, we're running right about $1 million, a little over $1 million. We'll see what happens throughout the year. Closed price to original price ratio, that's the list price versus actual sales price. You can see where in 2020 it was well below 100. Last year, mid-year, it toppled the 100% mark on average. And right now it's just running just a little bit under that. So good, strong seller's market for sure. Putnam County, very similar story here. You can see the active listings in 2020, close to 500. Now in the first 3 months of the year, well below 200. Number of months supply, that's again, under 2 months supply. Very, very competitive market for sellers. Buyers having a tough time out there. Number of new listings, you can see it's almost duplicative scenario here in Putnam, where in the blue line where it died during the pandemic for a few months, came back up, and during the fall and winter it declines both of those years. This year you can see we're in the spring here and the inventory has come up a little bit with new listings the first 3 months. We'll see what the summer months bring. Number of sales, obviously sales, no different than what we saw in Westchester. In 2020 was a little lower. 2021 sales really took off. And here we are in 2022 with very, very limited inventory being depleted even further, with sales activity still above where it was in 2020. Average days to sell, you can see we're, even though it's a little bit slower than Westchester, it's still down below the previous 2 years. On average, just above 60 days to sell a home. Average sale price, again, higher than the last 2 years. It's well above $500,000 mark. And close price to original price ratio. Again, last year, you can see in the last 6 months or so of the year was 100% or greater. This year, it came down a little bit during the winter months, which is somewhat expected. But now it's gone up to that 100% mark again, and as we got into March. So we'll see what the next 3 months brings. Take a peek, a look at the interest rates, what's happened here already this year. We began the year at about a 3% rate. For your 30-year fixed here now this week, we're up to 5%. That's a 2 percentage point decrease. So I know it's a tough situation for buyers out there, because every percentage point that rate goes up, they lose very close to 10% of their buying power. But if you're a seller, also keep in mind about your price point. If you push it too high, you're going to lose a lot of the buyer pool, because they're going to be priced out of the market because of these interest rates. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm here to answer anything that might come to mind. And until next week, enjoy the early spring, and we'll talk to you again soon.